Hey guys, it's Phil from Guild Ball Tonight. So, this week the Epic Flail podcast published an interview they did with Matt and Rich at the UK Games Expo. And while a lot of the spoiler content of it was interesting, I think the aspect of it which was in many ways most interesting was when they said what sounded a lot like 48 new players in season 2, which at least to me is close to a dozen more than I was certainly expecting. Now the question as to how you would make up that number, how you would get to that number of 48 has been the subject of a lot of discussion. And while I certainly don't know all of the answers, I wish I did. I do think that at this point, it's just going to be a lot of fun to try to speculate on how exactly we're getting to that number of 48 and what that's going to involve. So, going based on a combination of confirmed rumors and educated guesses and just wild speculation. Here's how I think we're getting there. So we know for a fact that we're looking at 8 captains, 8 mascots. That's a given. I mean, we've been told that every team is going to get an alt captain, every team is going to get an alt mascot. There's currently 8. I would not expect the Hunters Guild to launch with the alts, although it might, but we'll see that the numbers might work out better otherwise. So, and then 8 evolutions. Now, evolutions, this was another new aspect of the Season 2 offering, which was revealed more recently, and that is that we're going to have one player on each team get a Season 2 version. So, a more experienced or an altered or a changed version of one player on each team. So, that might be something like the younger players sort of growing up a bit, Boiler getting a bit more experience, maybe Harmony starting to take the game a little more seriously. Or it could be players who, due to the events of Season 1, are changed in some way. When we left the story, Brisket was in pretty bad shape. Maybe she can't carry on in that nimble striker role and takes up a different set of duties in the roster. Maybe Snakeskin's days are not, in fact, at an end, but she has some lasting effects from her little run-in with Avarice and Greed there in the sewer. So, we don't know at this point what those changes are going to be. I can't imagine they can make Flint any better. I'd certainly welcome them to try, but so we're definitely looking forward to seeing what they come up with for those players. Now, so what that leaves us is we still need those 2 players for the Engineers and the Alchemists who did not have 7 players from the Kickstarter offering. So you go ahead and you tack those on there. And then we also knew that each guild was going to get 1 entirely new player. So that's another 10 players there to go with the 24 we already went over. Well, that's only 34 of 48 so far. Now, we do know one other thing is coming, and that is going to be 6 hunters. We know at least 6 because that's how many you need for a team. Now, it's entirely possible that they could launch the hunters with 7, 8 players, with an alt captain, with an alt mascot. That's entirely possible. It's not as interesting though. So let's go ahead and let's hold the hunters at 6 players, because that's a number that gets interesting. That number's 40. That leaves 8. Now 8 is a very interesting number, because what 8 is it's this plus 2. Now, what do we know about the hunters and the union? Well, the Season 1 union players included 2 players who could play for the hunters. So if we had another 6 players and another 2 union players on top of what was already declared, And those 2 Union players could play for this unknown Guild X. That would add up to 48. Now, that's certainly not the only way to get to 48. It's not the way I think is most likely to get to 48. It's not what I expect to see. And again, I don't know the answer to this. But it's an interesting thing to think about, isn't it? That maybe, just maybe, the Hunters won't be the only new guild. Maybe instead of going to 9, we're going to 10. And what would that guild be? I strongly encourage them to consider perhaps the Podcasters Guild. That's, that's just me. All right, anyway, what do you think? Let me know. All the usual places, GBT Podcast on Twitter, comments down there, all the other places. We are on all the social media platforms, or at least all the ones that people have encouraged me to get on so far. And I'll tell you what, you guys can't pick one, but we went over this in the last show. If you want to hear about it, listen to that again. So anyway, hang in there, knees up, watch the knives.